Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com. November's going to be a jam-packed month. And one of the fights that has an intriguing storyline is the return of Kelly Pavlik against Bryan Vera, a Texas fighter. And this fight is actually going to be on the undercard of Manny Pacquiao versus Antonio Margarito in Texas. Now, many know that I've been a Kelly Pavlik skeptic in the past. If you do a quick search on YouTube, you're going to see that when Kelly Pavlik was unbeaten, I picked against him when he was fighting Bernard Hopkins. And when Kelly Pavlik was riding high, I picked against him when he fought Sergio Martinez. Kelly Pavlik, who was favored in both fights, lost both fights. Now, what people may not know is Kelly Pavlik remains one of the most popular boxers in the sport, just based on the volume of emails that I get, and I'm not inviting any, just based on the volumes of emails that I get from, I'll call them the Kelly Pavlik Nation. Few fighters are viewed more favorably by diehard fans, their diehard fans, than Kelly Pavlik. Just look at the volume of comments that I got, and just look at the comments I got on the Bernard Hopkins versus Kelly Pavlik video. Not only that, Kelly Pavlik supporters at different times in Kelly Pavlik's career wanted Pavlik to, in addition to fight Bernard Hopkins, they wanted him to fight Joe Calzaghe at one point, right? And keep in mind, Calzaghe is a super middleweight, or was a super middleweight, and retired unbeaten. There was also talk of Kelly Pavlik fighting Paul Williams. In fact, HBO had reserved a date for them, and it was when Pavlik withdrew that Williams fought Sergio Martinez in 2009's Fight of the Year. So many know that I'm a Kelly Pavlik skeptic. Those who have read my book, the few of you who've read my book, know that I have a couple of chapters in there on Kelly Pavlik because I think that he's an interesting fighter in terms of the things I'm looking for and not looking for in fighters in the ring. Now, while I believe Kelly Pavlik is flawed, and while Bryan Vera famously beat Emmanuel Stewart fighter Andy Lee, right? In this fight, Pavlik against Vera, even a skeptic like me is taking Kelly Pavlik. In fact, I'll go further. Based on styles, I believe Kelly Pavlik wins this fight by knockout. Let me also point out that while Vera is hard to knock out, just understand you need to look underneath the hood. Vera has lost 4 of his last 5 fights. And so, Kelly Pavlik, his problems, as I see them, relate to his balance, the fact that he doesn't bend his knees, right? The fact that he has a problem with fighters who can move, who can punch on the move, and who can move laterally. And so think about the 2 guys he lost to, Bernard Hopkins and Sergio Martinez. Also consider the fact that Hopkins, who in his last fight against Roy Jones came inside on Roy Jones, right? His strategy was to put his head down and come inside on Roy Jones and pin Roy Jones up on the ropes. If you look at his game plan against Kelly Pavlik, you're going to see that Hopkins actually used a completely different strategy. Lateral movement. Hopkins is the person who created the blueprint on how to beat Kelly Pavlik. Hopkins used lateral movement, circled Pavlik in the middle of the ring, countered Pavlik, kept Pavlik turning like a top. If you want to see the things that Hopkins saw against Pavlik, just do a Google search for Bernard Hopkins' comments after that fight in the ring. And what I thought was a remarkable moment in boxing, right after the fight, Bernard Hopkins actually talked to the television crowd and actually talked about what Kelly Pavlik did wrong He also offered Kelly Pavlik some instruction in boxing on what to do. Hopkins talked about things like Kelly Pavlik's stiff legs. In other words, Hopkins, who read Felix Trinidad's legs years ago to give Trinidad his first loss, was reading Kelly Pavlik's legs. Pavlik actually telegraphs his punches. Pavlik cannot punch on the move. Pavlik is hand speed deficient. So, why do I think Pavlik beats Bryan Vera? Simply because Bryan Vera comes forward. He is not a Sergio Martinez type. He's not a Bernard Hopkins type. Take a look at the film clip of his best moment, beating Andy Lee. You're going to see that Vera views himself like Mike Tyson and Jack Dempsey. He's wearing the trademark black trunks. He's coming forward. That's exactly the kind of fighter that Kelly Pavlik destroys, right? Let me also say, too, pay close attention to the weight. I myself am stunned that Kelly Pavlik is still fighting at 160. I personally feel that that weight is hurting him. Kelly Pavlik is a guy who gains, a lot of pounds after the weigh-in. He's artificially at 160, and I think that that hurts him significantly. I'm surprised he hasn't moved up to 168 or 175, since both of those divisions are loaded with big names. You know about Showtime Super 6, and of course the light heavyweight division's in flux now that Jean Pascal beat Chad Dawson. Pascal himself is fighting Bernard Hopkins. Tavares Cloud just beat Glenn Johnson. Bebut Shumanov recently won. That's a loaded division. So instead, Pavlik's taking the easy way out. He's fighting at 160. Let me say, I'm questioning his management for doing so. Let me also say that Kelly Pavlik needs to be careful because Sergio Martinez is still at 160, and I don't see Pavlik ever beating Sergio Martinez. Also, one of boxing's most underrated fighters, Dmitry Pirog, who just took out Danny Jacobs, he has a share of the belt at 160. Quite frankly, if Dmitry Pirog signed to fight Kelly Pavlik, my money would be on Dmitry Pirog. Here, I believe Kelly Pavlik wins this fight. I believe he does it emphatically. I think Bryan Vera is going to stand and try to trade with him. Bryan Vera has only knocked out 50% of his opponents. He doesn't have the punching power that Kelly Pavlik has. Pavlik physically is the much bigger man. Kelly Pavlik in any shootout can take out guys who come straight at him. Keep in mind, he knocked out Edison Miranda. He's also the guy who gave Jermaine Taylor his first loss. Think about that Jermaine Taylor fight. Taylor came in, dropped Kelly Pavlik, and then curiously, and only Jermaine Taylor and his trainers can figure this one out, curiously, Jermaine Taylor then stood right in front of Kelly Pavlik instead of using lateral movement and crisp counterpunching, right? I believe Jermaine Taylor simply fought the wrong fight. So I'm taking Kelly Pavlik in this fight. I think he's going to be a huge favorite. I think he wins big. For those of you who want a rate of return, I would put a portion of your bet on Kelly Pavlik by KO. In other words, take Pavlik to win, have a kicker. Kelly Pavlik by KO. I do not see Bryan Vera winning this fight, even though I view Kelly Pavlik as a flawed boxer. Let me also say this, too. As you watch Kelly Pavlik, just ask yourself, what would Pavlik do if he weren't able to land that lead jab as a rhythm maker, right? Also ask yourself, how did Sergio Martinez, who's physically smaller than Kelly Pavlik, bust up Kelly Pavlik's eyes as bad as he did in their fight? Think about it. You have Pavlik, who has a pretty good jab, who has a reach. How did Sergio Martinez get around that reach so methodically that he busted up both of Pavlik's eyes? Both of Pavlik's eyes were bleeding. In other words, with lateral movement, Kelly Pavlik doesn't know what to do. As I've said with Nathan Cleverly, look at Kelly Pavlik's feet. His feet are too wide apart. Let me also say this, too. Kelly Pavlik's legs are too stiff. He is sprouting roots in the ring. Against a fighter who can move and against a fighter who can change from southpaw to righty and back and give Kelly Pavlik angles, I believe he would be lost in the ring. I like Pavlik in this one. Let me know your thoughts on the fight. To the Pavlik Nation, rather than flood my YouTube email box, why don't you go to my channel page where we have a boxing forum where you have a lot of very knowledgeable boxing fans talking about different fighters from different countries. Manny Pacquiao, Antonio Margarito, David Haye, Dimitri Pirog, Brandon Rios. Stop by my channel page, youtube.com/DWYER70905. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why Kelly Pavlik is the future of boxing. Tell me why you, Pavlik Nation, believe so much in Kelly Pavlik, the fighter. I'd love to hear it, because while his KOs look tremendous, right, you really have to ask yourself at the end of the day, who really has he beaten? Edison Miranda, after the Kelly Pavlik fight, was completely undressed by Andre Ward, right? He also was completely exposed and undressed by Arthur Abraham after that fight. Jermaine Taylor was beaten, knocked out by Carl Froch. His stamina problem, which manifested itself against Kelly Pavlik, was evidence against Carl Froch, where he started losing the latter part of that fight. Also, of course, Jermaine Taylor was stopped by Arthur Abraham. Ask yourself, who are the big names that Kelly Pavlik has beaten? I can tell you against Bernard Hopkins, I'm not sure if I gave Kelly Pavlik 3 rounds in that fight. And also, I know there's a lot of folklore about the middle rounds against Sergio Martinez. All I could say is at the end of that fight, just look at Kelly Pavlik's eyes and tell me who won that fight. Anyway, I am curious to figure out the fascination with Kelly Pavlik. I encourage Pavlik people to leave comments on my channel page. Thanks for watching.